to the Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets show here on the Mayo Media Network. As always, sponsored by Prize Picks. I am Matt Moody, joined by DJ Mitchell to go through Tuesday, February 23rd's NHL slate. DJ, how you doing?
You know, I was doing great until I realized the Sabres were on a back-to-back. Everything was going well. I was like, great, we don't have to talk about the Sabres. I can just put the miserable night behind me. Nope, they're back. So doing terrible. Still a Buffalo Sabres fan. I wake up every morning and see the jerseys on the wall, and I remind myself of the sadness that is being a Sabres fan. So Matt, how are you?
You know, I'm in the same boat, but I'm much more well-equipped, I think, to deal with the eternal sadness that is the Buffalo Sabres. So, it was just, it was a tough night. They had a great start, a terrible finish, and we get to talk about them in a pretty fun spot against New Jersey again here on a Tuesday night. So, it's 6 games. 8 games are on Monday. So the rare week where we actually have a lighter slate to go through than Chris and Eric do on Mondays. So make sure you're checking those guys out when they're on. Chris will be on tomorrow's show and all that. So, just be sure you're watching every day of the week.
Yep. Before we get started, I do want to go over Prize Picks once again. Definitely get in on Prize Picks. Use the code MMN for the $100 up to $100 deposit bonus. Now, obviously, we're here to talk about the NHL. We're going to give you a ton of different players and a ton of different spots. We're going to go over lines. We're going to give you all that news. But if you're not only into hockey and maybe you're gearing up for March Madness, college basketball, all of those things, go over the fantasy score, check the guys that you like in the game, go over or under. I think a lot of edge in these college sports are always interesting if you can get the right beat reporters. So try to find the best all around, have some fun. If your bracket goes out the window, I'm very excited about what's coming in college basketball. I won't talk about it, Matt, don't worry. But definitely check it out. Let us know. Send us, your Prize Picks. If you do some fantasy scores over there, tweet them to us. We'll retweet them. And we'll post ours tomorrow. So Matt, anything else before we get going here?
Yeah, no, you can find that over on Twitter. Follow the Mayo Media Network on Twitter, and our best picks will be over on Twitter. So make sure you follow, like, subscribe, whatever you do. Just make sure you're in touch with us, and love our friends over at Prize Picks. So going into the first game of the night, we're gonna do it. We're just gonna rip off the Band-Aid. The Buffalo Sabres here travel into New Jersey. They're the only team on a back-to-back here. Kind of interesting. Also, one of the few, I think one of 2 rematches of the most recent game played for each of these teams. Sorry, I don't know where I was going with that, but in any case, we've seen Buffalo at New Jersey a few times lately. So this is, probably a really close game, even though Buffalo's coming in dragging their feet. New Jersey blew a really tough game to Washington on Sunday. So in this battle of the toilet bowl, let's call it, New Jersey minus 122, over under 5.5. DJ, where are you going on this one? Do you think this game has the tempo to get above 5.5, or, do you like the side here? Where's your lean?
I mean, I think it's very slightly towards the under, but I'm not very high on that. I do think that New Jersey is actually not the worst team in the world, I would say. So I do like them to win this one. And I do think, of course, I'm negatively biased against the Sabres. So hard for me I want to give constructive, good advice, but I think the Sabres have broken me beyond repair. So it is tough. New Jersey did kind of play a little bit differently than maybe the Lions for their last game against Washington. They did lose kind of a heartbreaker on Sunday. Washington scoring a couple of late goals. It was Jack Hughes, Palmieri, and Janssen? No.
Yep, Janssen.
Brat, Hischier, Zaka. So I think that off the cuff, Nico Hischier back, first power play as well with Zaka. So you're going to get some unique, very cheap correlations in DFS. You're also getting, I think, some decent odds on Hischier and those guys to score. And I'm not positive. I mean, you might want to look around a bit because on DraftKings, Hischier's not there for a point or anything like that yet. So you might want to look around for that. But I think that he's, might not be considered as like a top threat. And he's not, maybe the greatest goal scorer in the world. So I think getting him for a point is a fair way of going about it. On the other end of this game, we didn't have Jeff Skinner for the Sabres. I don't know if he's going to pop back in or not.
He has to, because they lost Reader. It sounds like he's sounds like he's out. So even if they didn't want to, they sort of have to. In my opinion, they could scratch him again, but my God, like that. Yeah. Talk about a fireable offense. Jesus. Come on.
It's going super well. $9 million to scratch him. Perfect job. Okay. But to score. Sorry.
Come on. He's got like 30 something shots. Like, it's not like he's not getting chances. I know. It's just, and we're all just banging the same drum. Everyone on Sabres Twitter is saying the exact same thing. Everyone in fantasy Twitter is looking at it like, he's obviously just running extremely cold.
Yeah, he is, for sure.
That's the situation though in Buffalo. So I don't know if you were going into sort of the Sabres, but we did see their top six play a ton of ice time against the Islanders, including Dylan Cousins in the top six. So, you do like to see that just from a betting perspective. Like, the guys who are going to be on the ice: Eichel, Reinhart, Olofsson, Hall, Stahl, and Cousins. Hopefully that sticks in some combination. They could switch things up, but they played a decent game against the Islanders. So I like the over in this one, actually. The Devils have been playing with so much pace lately. And really it's been a season long thing. They sort of had a, 2-week lull there where they weren't playing, but when they've been on the ice, they've been a really fun team to watch. And I think that's been one of the more surprising things of this entire season to me, just how much I've enjoyed watching the Devils play. Jack Hughes looks so confident with the puck. Guys like Nico Hischier back in the fold. Kyle Palmieri's finally starting to heat up. So I think this game shapes up to, hit 7-8 goals. I like the over pretty comfortably, actually. Like, I was surprised to see it at 5.5. I thought it'd be a, safe 6. So yeah, that's sort of my lean here. So with that in mind, I do like a lot of these other bets as well. Yeah. It's one name that jumps out to me, Pavel Zacha. You mentioned Nico Hischier back. He's a great passer, maybe not the shot first guy. Pavel Zacha's on that top unit power play and on the top line. This guy can wire a puck. Like, he's playing the half wall on the power play. Like, he's there to shoot. So plus 390 to score. If you want to get crazy, 20-1 first goal, Pavel Zacha. I like that. What are your thoughts otherwise?
No, was one angle I was gonna take for sure. I think that really is, he's the best odds to score. I mean, of any player here that, like, as far as like against the spread, I think that's one of my favorite, maybe of the entire day, but we'll keep going. And then they get 1 point for Hughes, minus 125 also seems decently to pretty likely. His shots 2.5. I'm not too super sold on. I think that's such an incredible coin flip, and maybe leaning towards that not as likely. So I don't know the shots if I'm going to go for any of these personally.
The Palmieri one seems really good to me. Like, Palmieri's obviously the trigger guy. To see him very close to Jack Hughes is kind of weird, actually. That's, I think, the favorite sort of bet. I actually like the over more on the game than I do on the Kyle Palmieri shots, but I like betting both as well. If I think it's playing singles,
just as likely to be a 5 as a 6. Like, I see what you're saying in New Jersey's pace and everything. And I don't know. I'm personally, like, I think it's very likely to be 4-2, but it's also very likely to be 3-2. Like, that's kind of where I see it. So we'll find out. So I probably is not going to bet that.
And then just a couple of DFS notes. Nico Hischier came back and he was 2.5K. Now he's 2.9. Like, they're going to take a while to price him up where he should be over on DraftKings, at least. I don't have FanDuel up in front of me, but he and Pavel Zacha are a very nice mini stack. Let's just say
Draisaitl, McDavid. It's just like the obvious avenue to take. But we could get over to Pittsburgh and Washington, Pens, Caps. We've seen this game a few times already. We've seen kind of everything you can imagine. I feel like we've seen like the 10-goal game and the super low kind of scoring pace game with them. So what to expect is a little bit different. We did see Kasperi Kapanen get on the top line, but not see much of any power play time, and definitely not. Well, they didn't get a second unit run at all because they scored with the first unit like right away. But he's not on that first unit, so it kind of hurts his upside. But Crosby, Gensel, Kapanen, and then Malkin, Rust, Zucker. So kind of changes up the way you might attack it DFS wise. But as far as the over under here, as far as everything else, it's a 6.5. The slight favor to the Caps. What are you thinking here, though?
Yeah, the Capitals came out sleeping. They laid an egg versus New Jersey and then absolutely blew their doors off in the second and third period. That was the last we've seen of them. So that's sort of I think they keep that going. They've played. I mean, these two teams have played some really good hockey like against each other. Like they're just fun to watch. And that's been years in the making. It's always like that when it happens. So this is a case where I think I'm likely to get pieces of this game in most of my lineups, like Ovi, a guy like you mentioned, Crosby and Kapanen, Jake Gensel is 6.1 on a slate with tons of really, really expensive guys. And, he's not necessarily at their level, but he has the ceiling like those guys because he's playing with Sidney Crosby, top power play and all that. So, I think this is, an area where if I'm looking to bet, I might sort of take a long shot goal bet in someone. It sounds crazy, but Michael Matheson has been shooting the puck so much lately that, like 6-1 for him to score on that second power play, like they're actually feeding him. So that one sort of interests me, but otherwise, yeah. Do you have any of these like player props that you're thinking of?
I mean, I don't know where I'm going to land. I mean, it's been such a smash button for Rust, and now even on the shot prop for DraftKings again, but he finally didn't hit it. I don't know if I'm going to go back to it or not yet. I kind of want to look into what they did before I do anything. The shot props I think are all pretty fair. I don't think there's one that stands way out above the rest. I might consider Malkin though. He's 2.5 seems, I don't know. He's so hit or miss for me. I always feel like I got a hold of Malkin and then he just falls apart. He got really hot with shooting the puck and then he did not barely even play against the Islanders. Very weird. In the last game, he had the assist in 13 minutes. So it's hard to know exactly what they're going to do. I don't know if I feel really strong on anything here as far as an absolute stone cold block. I think the Gensel plus 1 point at minus 182 is intriguing enough as far as if you're parlaying something big together, just kind of putting that in. He's seeing huge minutes, first power play with Crosby and everything. I don't think he's that much less likely to get a point than Crosby at minus 250 for Crosby, minus 182 for Gensel. I don't see why that's that way. So I could get talked into something like that.
Yeah, I'll take Penn's money line here. I think that might be my favorite bet. So let's go over to Chicago at Columbus. Columbus should be without Zach Werenski yet again. Chicago looks like they'll be without Dylan Strome. So the first bit of news there, Seth Jones, obviously sort of the key guy on defense, and then no Michael Del Zotto either. It sounds like so. Power play 2, we don't really know, so might be worth in DFS, especially taking flyers on some of their cheap 2.5 type defensemen. And then on the Chicago side, Dylan Strome's been a staple on their top power play unit, and he's gone. Sounds like guys like Ryan Carpenter are being used on that top unit. So very interesting sort of value, I think, just comes immediately into the picture because of those two absences. Any thoughts on what this does to the money line, the over under, anything around those bets?
I'm definitely slightly in on the under here. I'm not again I think this game could very easily just get to the over. I'd like to see the goaltending matchup first. Obviously, Lankinen's been an absolute beast as of late. He did get the tough loss, that 37 on shots against him, loss against Carolina as they just kind of really, showed up and played well. Before that, he had that super shutout with the assist, but he's been really, really good. If he's in net and maybe we get, Korpisalo, it sounds like it's probably going to happen. Merzlikins is out. I kind of like that those goalies each to play well enough to get it below 5.5. The one bet I like, a decent bit, not anything crazy, but DeBrincat's goal to score, plus 235. Just I think he's a pretty good shooter.
Why is he higher odds than Bjorkstrand? That's weird.
I don't know.
I don't know. Even better than that, Alex DeBrincat to pick up a point, minus 139. Patrick Kane to pick up a point, minus 265. Like,
it doesn't make sense. Like they're on the ice together all day.
Right. Like Patrick Kane, yes, is slightly more likely to get a point. Sure.
Yeah.
But we're talking 20 to 25 percentage points. Like, no, like that's too much. So
yeah, DeBrinket's the guy here in this game. I mean, him and Seth Jones, I think, you mentioned him being, one of your more sought after players on this slate potentially. Those guys. But do we have
we don't have points on Seth Jones?
Yeah, I didn't think we did. Very disappointing. Might have to look over on FanDuel if you play over there for that. But I think that DeBrincat to get a point or a goal is just like seemingly really nice little value there. It doesn't really make much. It's like they just haven't looked at the game logs and seen him playing like 21 plus minutes and all the power play time. Like, I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, for sure. I'm not even seeing a Ryan Carpenter to score prop on DraftKings, which is, to be expected because it's Ryan freaking Carpenter. But do note that he is on the top power play. So if you see a number, it's probably too low for just the roll. And I love just taking advantage of these new situations that these sites, they're just not paying attention like we are to player usages, role changes, that sort of thing. So if you can find that on your book, it's likely a good bet. I kind of feel like if I'm betting this game, I might just make a money line bet on Columbus. I don't really have a great sense of the over or the under. It's definitely one of those games that to me is, pretty much priced correctly on the over.
Yeah.
So anything else before we get to Montreal, Ottawa?
No, I think we can jump right over. I mean, I'm a little bit surprised because these are two Canadian teams and it's not a 6.5. So I guess
is that even allowed?
I didn't think that was allowed for them to do that. So I got to call Vegas really quickly and just check in. But no, I think it's, I like the over slightly. I know you don't, I feel like, right? I mean, is that fair to say?
That could be accurate. Yes.
I mean, it's weird because the numbers are kind of leading me to favor the under, but everything in every fiber of my being is just like, think about it. Ottawa and their goaltending against Montreal and having like 4 pretty good lines, and Ottawa like just finding 2 goals, and it could get there. I mean, I think that I don't know. I think the Ottawa incompetency, I mean, they're like minus 38 goal differential on the year. I mean, they're really bad, and I think that Montreal could they lose to them in overtime on, was it Sunday or Saturday?
Sunday. Yep.
On Sunday in overtime, I think they bounce back here. We're not sure on Duren yet if he's going to play. Not that makes a huge heck of a lot of difference. I really like Gallagher though. I mean, I'm very in on him. His Corsi numbers have really been jumping 5-on-5. As long as he sees the minutes, and I know that's always the concern with him. It's like, is he going to get enough minutes for you to make it worth it? But minus 143 to have a point. I think that line with him and Toffoli, which should stick together, is really strong. They're even to have a point in the game. I think you could take either of them and feel good about it, but I slightly like Gallagher more as a guy that more of a play driver overall, but Toffoli has shown up this year and put up 1 million points. So I can't blame you. The 3.5 shots on goal for Gallagher, it's a coin flip. I think he does it, more often than not. And especially against Ottawa, they're going to give up a fair amount of Corsi against, especially if Shabbat's not in. I mean, they're really, really weak defensively already. So, I think it's fair. I think that the pucks have not been finding the net as much as for Gallagher as the numbers indicate that he should be. So that's kind of my angle on this game, is I'm going to be putting something together with Gallagher.
Yeah. And, I think I sort of stand opposed to that because to me that is the story of Brendan Gallagher. A lot of great expected rates and all that, just the ice time isn't there. Usually isn't there, I should say. And there are just cheaper ways in DFS, I think, to get exposure to this Montreal team that I like a lot. And just in general, like I don't see this team, scoring a ton of goals. Like Tyler Toffoli's not going to, he obviously hasn't been, but like he's not a guy who regularly beats his, expected shooting percentage. Same goes for a guy like Josh Anderson, who's second on the team in goals. Brendan Gallagher, same story there. So, this to me feels like a solid under bet. Montreal should have no problem taking control of this game. And what they want to do is, kind of reduce the pace, low danger chances going both ways. And maybe, individual talent wins out. Nick Suzuki is incredible. Druin, if he plays, also very slick with the puck. So there are certainly ways, outs for the over to smash for sure. But I just think as a median, like I'm very comfortable betting the under in this one. So one of the things I was looking at the scores, like 2-2 going to overtime, just like last game did, but the Canadians winning 10.5 to 1. If you want to bet the correct score there, also, doesn't have to go to overtime, just the score being 3-2. That feels like to me about what we should see. So I might, sprinkle a few bucks on that one just for a little bit of fun, but that sort of fits my view of how this game is going to go.
Other thing is, Tim Stutzel or honestly, you could say it a million different ways. I feel like every time, he's plus 410 for a goal. First power play, I think he had one, right? If I'm not recall correctly.
Recently, at least, if not that last game.
It wasn't last game. Yeah, it wasn't last game. Game before, but he was on the first unit, which I expect them to keep. He played 5-on-5 with Stepan and Batherson. Batherson's the one who had the goal on that line. I mean, I think there's, reason to believe a guy getting 18 minutes in this game with first power play is a little more likely to score than they're kind of giving him credit for. I think that if you continue to kind of just put a little bit of money on that, it's going to maybe come out positive for you. For some reason, this just doesn't seem priced correctly. Like Chris Tierney or Tim Stutzel, I don't know. I personally,
he's really good.
He's very good at hockey. So
he's making a lot of draft nicks. Eat crow, and when he was drafted, it was like, this guy's probably not going to be a difference maker like some of the other guys on the board, and he's come in and has made a difference. So I think. Especially if you can see,
it was just on the outside looking in on the playoffs.
Well, come on, look at who he's playing over. Like he has made a difference. It's just you can obviously see it with him, and there are not many guys on that roster who you can obviously see it with. So
past 2 games, 8 shots on goal and 1 in the net. I mean,
if you can find him for a point, too, like that, really solid. Yeah. All right, 2 more games. 7:30 for this one. Nashville at Detroit. Talking about toilet bowls, like my God. Nashville has not been very good. Detroit, to be expected, also not been very good. Do you think that Detroit is a home dog plus 140? Do you think they're worth a bet here?
Not really. I mean, first off, I'm pretty in on the under here. I think this game really does set up to be A's Stew's
1-0.
If you want to, honestly, I would think like 2-0 for Nashville as like a correct score bet. I don't like this game very much. I don't really have that much interest in betting on much of anything here. I don't know what Nashville is going to do with their lines. They seem to put them in a blender every single night, and that doesn't make me feel very good. Detroit, I think we have a better idea of what they're going to do, but outside of like the Mantha Larkin unit, maybe considering, no, never mind. I was going to say that there's really just no talent. I mean, Zadina is good, but they're just deciding not to put him on the first power play. Kind of just a overall pretty big fade for me all across everything. So yeah, I'm just not interested in this game overall.
Yeah, no, fair enough. I don't think there is a ton of reasons to be excited about this game. I think you could get away with betting some player prop unders on Nashville. They seem, they just seem like they're really priced as if they are like this, I don't want to say dominant team, but they just, like they should control this game. And like on paper it's there, but the results just have not been there. Even, the expected goals and everything else is just not there. Like they're just not playing good brand of hockey right now. And until that changes, I think I'm pretty comfortable, just fading them all together, in DFS. I don't really want to get sucked into too many over bets, say Philip Forsberg or whatever, just because we don't know what their deployment will look like. And especially when they struggle, they just throw things in a blender, and what comes out is, just random basically. So it's a very tough team to, square in on. I think Anthony Mantha on the Detroit side is a guy who I want to, just kind of not go all in on, but I really want to be overweight on him at DFS. I think his shot prop is also nice, over 2.5, -112. The reason for this being, after a stretch of not playing, in a premium role, I believe he was healthy scratched maybe a couple weeks ago. He's back. He's on the top line with Dylan Larkin and Darren Helm. Helm isn't really a super relevant player, but it just sort of goes to show they're going to be out there protecting leads. It's not like Mantha's minutes are as big a risk as they were when he was centered by, say, Nemestikov or whatever. And I just think that, he's also back on that top power play unit. So there's just, I think, a lot of indicators that point to Mantha sort of being overlooked, for one. And secondly, I think just a little bit of value in betting, his player props here. So any other players that you like getting pieces of?
Not really. I just think this game is more of a stay away than anything. I don't hate the idea of saying the no on a point for some of these guys, because I think that's decently in the realm of possibility for a lot of them. So I'm fine with that. But other than that, I'm probably just stay away more than anything else. I don't trust.
I'm down to bet on the home. Go ahead.
No, I just don't trust anything in it. I feel like every time I think Nashville's going to do something, they take a complete 180 on me. And Arvidsson still shooting the puck a lot. They haven't really done anything that I think is going to stick. So I'm down to get a home dog. I think Detroit's a good bet here. It's kind of plug your nose and click the button, but I think they can get the job done here. So that'll bring us to the main event. Let's call it 10 o'clock. So basically, all the other games will be well and done. Edmonton at Vancouver. It's the final game of the night. We've got McDavid, we've got Draisaitl, we've even got, Pettersson, who's sort of resurgent, 2 goals last game, continues to just hit post after post, but, shooting a ton. This game almost certainly going to be the, prize of all DFS lineups, betting wise, a lot of overs likely to be in store here. So, what are your top level thoughts on this game? I dressed for the game. So, this is obviously the game of the night. I have the old school Canucks hat. I have Connor McDavid. I went, 90s or 80s, 90s kind of look. Okay, perfect. So everyone that isn't on YouTube, jump on over, check it out. It's wonderful. High level thoughts. First off, I know we talked a good amount about this on the Morning Skate podcast, and this was all really Matt's doing. But we talked a little bit about kind of the game theory of building lineups and how if this is going to be the most, owned game, it might be a little bit wise to consider kind of, okay, let me start this over. If you do stack this game, okay, let's say you stack up on Edmonton, and this is totally Matt's idea, and I'm stealing it 100%.
I'm taking notes.
If you stack Edmonton and your lineup isn't very good, okay, let's say you're not going to get there. Don't keep Edmonton in your lineup because they're going to be super high owned. So the chance of you catching all these people and getting back in the money isn't very good. Stack up on Vancouver instead. Leave salary on the table and try to get back to hoping that Edmonton duds, which everyone has them, and you can catch up and get minimum cash. Matt, did I say that correctly?
Exactly. Okay. That's just DFS 101. Basically, hopefully you don't have lineups that are dead, but let's be real, sometimes you just do. And, it's better to try and salvage a min cash if Edmonton completely fails than it is to say, well, at least instead of finishing in dead last, I finished in, 10,000th place when only 3,000 people get paid. What's the point? Your pride. So, you're just trying to, use the rules to your advantage to make a little bit of money back. That's basically just the overall thought DFS wise. You can hear more about that and DFS in general over on the Morning Skate podcast. So if you haven't yet, be sure to find that on Stitcher, on iTunes.
I wanted to get that point out of the way, just so we're on the same page with everything going forward in this game. Now, the one player that I think is a bit more off the board is Niles Hoglander, who is maybe my favorite solo play on the entire night as far as DraftKings and daily fantasy. Obviously you could talk about McDavid, Draisaitl, Besser, all those guys. Till we're blue in the face. They're all good plays. Hoglander has actually been one of the better iCourse per 60 players in the league in the month of February. He was tied for 8th, I believe, in the past couple of weeks at all strengths and just shooting the lights out of the puck. That second line in Vancouver of Pearson, Horvat, and Hoglander, it correlates well 5-on-5. It doesn't correlate on the power play. Horvat gets the first, and the other two are, on the second, which doesn't see a ton of run. But Hoglander is actually seeing the minutes, and consistently, he's playing very well in those minutes.
Tons of shots, no goals.
So, Matt, I'll let you.
He's 2 or 3 games away from the Jeff Skinner treatment, apparently, because he's generating tons of chances. He looks, like he does look good out there, though. So, I do like that call a lot, especially if you're just trying to be different. Maybe it's a one-off, going against an Edmonton type stack. He's cheap. He lets you fit in those type of guys. But yeah, looking at his player prop, 2 score in this game, plus 310, like the regression has to hit at some point, right? So, maybe you're talking, 3 to 4 shots on goal. Like, that actually does seem like a decent number to, get him at and just sort of bank on the math, maybe working out in our favor tonight. So I do like him. I think we'd obviously be remiss to not talk about these 2-point props with guys like Pettersson, JT Miller, Draisaitl, and McDavid. You can bet yes on any of those guys to score 2 or more points in this game. It's very interesting to me that Connor McDavid is so much lower odds than Pettersson to do this because, we just saw Pettersson do this last game. We know this Vancouver team, if the over is going to get there, like it's going to go through their top 6. You're not seeing guys like Jay Beagle, get multi-point games very often to get the game to a 6.5 total. So this to me just feels like there's a ton of value on these Vancouver guys. Am I wrong here?
No, first of all, I think you're absolutely correct. And Vancouver, and obviously they've played the most games in the league, but they have given up the most Corsi against, which is, they played more games than a lot of teams. So it makes sense. So I do think that Edmonton is a pretty sharp bet as far as, putting on the points, and it feeds through McDavid and Draisaitl. So that is clearly an easy money bet. But I think on the other side, Vancouver has funneled the offense to these top 2 lines, and Pettersson has been the guy on the power play. Like that's the guy they want with the puck, shooting it. As you mentioned, I think you mentioned it. He scored on the power play in last game. I think he had a post on the power play as well.
Yeah, he had a crossbar, and I think he had an empty net goal too, like a 6-on-5 situation.
Yeah, that's where they in the last game. Did they lose in overtime?
Yeah, no, he scored with the goalie pulled.
Okay. Anyways, though, yeah, they're feeding him. They tied it with the goalie. I thought you meant he scored an empty net goal. No. I was like, wait, no, he didn't score an empty net goal.
No.
Yeah, no, he scored on the power play with the goalie pulled. It was 6-on-4, I think. That's what you're saying. Okay.
Exactly. You. So,
I thought you meant the opposite. I was like, I don't think that's true. Okay. Yeah, no, but he is the guy. They're the focal point of that power play. So I think if you're playing Vancouver, the one-off on Hoglander, or I would definitely have like Miller and Pettersson and that Quinn Hughes kid. It's pretty
cool. So, just something to think about. We're seeing Draisaitl, McDavid, 2 score plus 117. Now, these guys, as great as they are, they're playing alongside Mr. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Connor McDavid gets him at 5-on-5, all 3 of them together on the power play. And let me just tell you, in the last 10 games, do you know who has the most shots out of any of those guys?
I think you're teeing up Nugent-Hopkins.
It's Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. They each have, him and McDavid are tied, but they each have 61 shot attempts here. And yeah, McDavid may be slightly more likely to score, but the Nuge is he's plus 220 to score a goal, and McDavid, Draisaitl plus 117. At some point, the main guys can't be good values all the time. And, in DFS, sure, jam everyone in. But if you're betting one guy from this game, I just don't see a reason to say, this is a McDavid smash when the Ryan Nugent-Hopkins props are, just this much better. So that's really sort of my main thing. Just thinking if you're betting on a guy, why not bet on a guy with better odds? Look at shots. Connor McDavid over 3.5. Ryan Nugent-Hopkins number, it's minus 182, but it's over 2.5. They're basically doing the same thing. So it just sort of feels kind of obvious to me that let's get the guy who isn't as fancy on paper, but is essentially doing the same thing from a betting perspective as McDavid is. So maybe not like the multi-point games, but that's not really what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, do you want to get to our favorite bets of the night? Are you ready for that segment, if you will?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
okay. So I just kind of wanted to piggyback on what you were saying, but I want to make it my favorite bet of the night. I think that one of the safest is just the Pedersen over 2.5 plus 120. That seems pretty, it's not perfect, obviously. Like he's definitely had those one shot on goal games, but as of late, and I think they're really focusing on trying to get him to shoot the puck more because how good his shot is. 20 minutes of ice time, Pedersen, JT Miller setting him up. I think that him coming back into the fold has definitely helped. So I think that Pedersen is just the easy take there, over 2.5.
I'm also a big fan of that one. Don't think that needs too much more explaining. For my favorite bet of the night, give me the Sabres Devils over. This game to me just does not feel like a 5.5. Maybe I'm just a bumbling fool, but to me this should be a 6. So I'll take the value on that all day.
All right, I'm going to say the DeBrink hit the score or even the point. I mean, either one of those, nice. You could just put it in. It's just not priced right. It just isn't.
No, that's very, very solid. All right, player prop wise, let's I'm trying to pick from one of the 3 games we haven't touched on yet. So I'm sort of feeling this Anthony Mantha. It's an ugly game, but he's sort of the prize jewel, in my opinion, in what should be a pretty ugly game. So, let's keep it relatively even keel. Anthony Mantha over 2.5 shots minus 112.
That game under for me. I didn't say an over under or anything. I do that like every time I pick 2 player props. No, but that game under is another one I'm pretty stout on. Get to DraftKings a little bit here, little DFS lineups.
Yeah, it's obviously, as I said, check out Morningscape Pod. We talked for I think 45 minutes about this slate specifically. So, and a little bit of other talk too. But
A10 basketball. No, I won't.
Okay. Please don't make me do that again. All right. But yeah, so this slate is going to be dominated by Edmonton 1. Rightly so. It's a very, very close analogy to Monday night, actually, because we had this McDavid or Matthews situation. This is actually even more cut and dry than the Matthews situation on Monday because we didn't know Matthews' line mates. We sort of had a lot of uncertainty there. Of course, Matthews fouled, but what he did is he also took out like 50% of the field with him. If you made lineups that didn't have Matthews in them, you probably did pretty well. So not saying that you need to fade McDavid or whatever, but just be mindful that like if you're building a team without McDavid, you probably don't need to get crazy. You don't need to do weird things to be different. And if you do play McDavid, obviously you'll need to play cheaper guys to make it work, but you'll also need to get a little bit different in order to sort of make sure that if you are going to have a good lineup, that lineup can win a tournament. That's usually what we're doing. We're trying to win the big prizes. So you need those low-owned guys who go off alongside a McDavid, 3-point night or whatever. So that's just sort of the quick cliff notes on what we're looking at. Now, DJ, do you have a, maybe top stack for us in DFS, especially if we're not targeting McDavid or maybe to go with McDavid?
I mean, obviously that it's super easy to play McDavid and friends. I mean, everything you want about DFS is in McDavid and Draisaitl with the minutes, the point upside, the game, the script, all of it. But if we're going to stay away from that, because I think it's just too easy to say like play McDavid and Nugent Hopkins, have fun. I honestly do like this Crosby Gensel. I'm not really sure if I'm going to play Kapanen much. I just don't think it's really worth it. I mean, it obviously could work. He's 3,800. It's cheap enough to put him in. I doubt I end up playing with Tang, but maybe. I think he's fairly priced here, but I just don't think I don't think you need to spend 5,600 on Chris Letang. But I think that Crosby Gensel in this matchup, it's a 6.5. And, I think it's going to be one of the more overlooked 6.5s on a 6-game slate that we're going to see just with, I think, the Edmonton onslaught. So if you get, those two and maybe, OV coming back, you're not going to be able to afford a lot of this upper price Edmonton, but that could be one way of going about it in I think a pretty similar both of these games going over is possible, but I don't see any reason why Pittsburgh is so much cheaper than Edmonton.
Yeah, no, totally fair. So I think this stack might work best with a Edmonton stack, sort of touched on it a bit, more in depth on the Morning Skate podcast, obviously, but with only 6 games, sort of have to repeat myself here. New Jersey Devils, Nico Hischier, and Pavel Zacha. I expect Hischier to be pretty popular because, people just know about him. But I don't think Pavel Zacha will get nearly as much ownership as he should garner. You can also correlate them with their power play defenseman in PK Subban. And, it also goes well with the way I see this game going. I see this game going over the 5.5 total. So I think that those guys, will help it get there. So that's probably my favorite low end stack that still has a lot of upside in my opinion.
No, I think it's very, very fair. The other one I'll go with, then I think that Vancouver on the other side is still very good. Yeah. And, I think we mentioned it enough, but the Pedersen, Miller, Quinn Hughes, you could throw Besser in it as well. I don't think he's entirely necessary. He's been great on the year. He scored a lot of goals, but, if you do the full 4-man, go right ahead. The line 2 as well is really cheap. And I think it's too cheap with Höglander, Pearson, and Horvat. All 3 of those guys together, it's going to be pretty contrarian. The correlation on the power play is tough, but I don't think there's, any reason to think that they couldn't get 2 goals at 5-on-5. And, if one of them scores in the power play, you're still happy. So any one more for you, I think?
Yeah. This Chicago side is a really interesting sort of combination of, you need value on this slate to play the big guns while also getting sort of leverage off of the big guns in Edmonton, because we have Patrick Kane and Alex DeBrincat very clearly, 2 of the best plays, just likely in a worse matchup in terms of pace and whatever else. And then you also get the value because on that top power play unit, say Ryan Carpenter, likely Adam Boakfist, both those guys sub 3K on DraftKings. So you could literally kill 2 birds with 1 stone by playing top end talent and also getting the value to sort of fit in other top end talent around your main stack. So I sort of like that one from just a tournament perspective for that reason.
Yeah, no, definitely. I was the one I talked about in MSP, so definitely agree. Is there anything else before we get on out of here?
No, I don't think so. Just make sure after this, you're going over the prize picks, putting together your entries. Use code MMN when you are over there to get that deposit bonus for you. And yeah, I think we are good to head out of here. So you can find me on Twitter. I am at Fake Moods. You can find DJ at DJ_Mitchell94. Be sure to rate, leave a review, leave us a thumbs up on YouTube, and also a comment. What's your favorite bet? What's your favorite tournament stack? If you're,
what jersey should I buy next?
Exactly.
Whatever you want to say. I don't know. I look good today.
Also,
and if you're not watching,
let's take a moment to appreciate that we are over a month into this NHL season, and DJ still is bringing out new jerseys every night. Let's see how long he keeps this going, right?
I honestly was trying to remember all the jerseys I've worn because I think I almost wore one double and I haven't yet. So I'm going to really try to focus on that. And I still have plenty in the arsenal, so don't worry. And I will buy more. I will do it just for you.
Well, everybody, best of luck out there on Tuesday night. We'll be right back with you on Thursday night. So I'm Matt. That is DJ. This is the Mayo Media Network Fantasy Hockey Picks and Bets show presented by Prize Picks, and we will see you.